Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salai Lomakudira. The time is 6 minutes before the top of the hour, and we'll be switching gears now, I think, to a very, very important topic. This week, the world's highest court, the International Court of Justice, has opened critical hearings into Israel's role in the deepening humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, with nearly 2.3 million Palestinians facing starvation, disease, and displacement. The court is examining whether Israel, as the occupying power, has violated international law by obstructing much needed humanitarian aid into Gaza. Over the next 5 days, 38 countries and major global bodies will be presenting arguments on Israel's legal obligations. Palestinian representatives have accused Israel of weaponizing aid, while Israel, which chose not to appear in person, claims it is the victim of systematic persecution, and has dismissed the proceedings entirely. But can the ICJ's non-binding opinion shape justice or accountability? And what does this moment mean for international legal norms and the Palestinian struggle? And joining us now to unpack this very, very critical moment is Sabah Al-Mukhtar, a prominent legal expert and partner at the Arab Lawyers Network. Sabah, thank you so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning, and looking forward to a very, very insightful engagement with you.
Alaikum assalam, and to you, and greetings to your listeners and viewers.
Pleasure's all ours. I think, Sabah, let's start with the basics. What exactly is the ICJ being asked to determine in these hearings? And secondly, what can we make of some of the opening statements that we've been hearing, during the course of this week? Is there a solid case to be made here against the state of Israel? And why is this case in particular very, very significant?
In the first instance, people have to recognize there is a difference between politics and the law. The law can be delayed for political reasons. And we've seen that despite the order of the court to arrest Israeli officials, they went to Hungary, they went to Israel, at least Netanyahu went there, and he was not arrested. So this is political refusal of a legal requirement. That's the basic. For the last few years, the International Court of Justice has been looking at the Israeli abuse of the law and the genocide which was taking place in Palestine, in Gaza in particular, and Palestine as a whole, for the whole period. But recently, because of the last year, what happened. But in 2021, the court decided to look into the actions of Israel. And at the time, Israel said that the court has no jurisdiction over Israel. In 2021, the court said, yes, they do have the jurisdiction. In November, on 21st of November, that was a major decision that has never been done before against Israel, because Israel seems to be always immune from prosecution, from adhering to the law. But based on the South African case, the judges have issued, the prosecutor asked the judges to issue an arrest warrant, which they did on 21st November 24. Israel is saying that the court does not have jurisdiction, so it should not have looked at the case. Now they've gone back to the court. They went to the Court of Appeal, which is the higher part of the international court, of the criminal court. In the appeal, they said that one, the court does not have jurisdiction, and secondly, that the court should revoke the arrest warrant. The Court of Appeal of the ICC said that the arrest warrants should stand. They cannot take them off. But the appeal court criticized the early court for not looking at the issue of jurisdiction. At the time when the court issued its order on the 21st of November 24, said that the issue of jurisdiction will be discussed later when the case, because at the moment, all what we have is that the court said that it is apparent, based on the application by South Africa, that Israel may be committing genocide. Of course, I'm talking, this is what the court says. Well, every human being, every sensible person, even a child, will know that this is genocide. When you're killing children, babies, you're using the food and water to penalize people, human beings. So this is the situation we are in. The court will listen to all the statements from Israel and other and counter arguments before the Court of Appeal, that one, the order of arrest should stand and continue to do so. And the Court of Appeal has said it will stand, but they will look at the jurisdictional issue. However, that judgment of the decision of the Court of Appeal makes the states who wants not to implement the judgment of the court for arresting those people, it makes their life a little easier. So they can say, well, we are not going to apply it because the court does not have jurisdiction, or the jurisdiction is still open. But quite honestly, all of this I'm talking about are legal arguments. But the reality of this is that there is genocide being committed in front of us. And I think in all of my life, I've never seen a genocide being committed before cameras, sound, and life, and people documenting their own death. This never happened anywhere in the world. Yet there is the politicians in the UK, in England, in America, in some of the European countries. They say, well, this may be genocide. Let's examine it. Let's look at the legal side. But actually, this is the missing of the political will of the West. When they wanted an order against Putin, they managed to get it in 3 months' time, and they imposed lots of sanctions and what have you. On Israel, on the contrary, they are still supplying Israel with weapons and money to kill more civilians and people.
I think a very, very important point that you're making. You know, we are in very unprecedented times where a genocide is being live streamed live on everyone's mobile phones and on television screens. I want to go to my next point now. Israel has chosen not to appear in person at the ICJ, but has submitted written objections. And while they have simultaneously also accused the United Nations of delegitimization. How should we understand Israel's legal and political strategy here? What does it tell us?
It tells us that Israel is relying on the backing of the Western powers. It's relying on the backing of America, which it has its pressure on the UN. We've seen Trump issuing an order of penalizing the court and penalizing the judges and penalizing the prosecutor. And this is the pressure that these Western countries, and the US in particular, can put on the judiciary. That is making, to me as a lawyer, I think I'm witnessing the worst time of abuse of the law, and that how international law is being eroded. It's being trampled all over. It is showing that the Western talk about law and order and about humanity and about all the good examples, they are practicing absolutely the opposite of that. So Israel is relying on these countries to back it in this way. And that is the reason why they have submitted this. This is principally a delaying tactic. The order of the court to arrest those people, it's been there since 21 November last year.
Mm.
Nothing has happened. And this is how the Western powers are now emptying the rules of international law, all of them, the Genocide Treaty, the Rome Treaty, the court orders, even the International Court of Justice, which said that Israel's occupation of Palestine is illegal. But all these countries seems to ignore that one. One wonders, how could Israel have such an influence on these countries? And it is principally Zionism, which is a political movement. It's nothing to do with the religion. It's a political movement which is putting the whole United States of America, which is the biggest country in the world in terms of area and people and money, etc., to become really the first country to total disregard and abuse of the legal process on the international level. And then after a little while, they will turn around and find one country in Africa or Asia or the Middle East or Latin America, and they throw the book at them that they are working against international law. So that shows that we always talk about double standards, but double standards have always existed. And the West always has double standards because there is a contradiction between the European, American, and the third world. There is a conflict of interest on everything, on politics, on morality, on ethics, on law, on everything. So the West, Israel is relying on all these factors to submit this. Why they didn't appear there? Because they think that they will not be able to make more effect. If they submit the papers, people will not know how weak the Israeli position, because paper documents, you will have to sit down and spend time to read it. But if you watch it on television and you see their representatives presenting arguments that cannot be swallowed by any sensible person, whether they are lawyers or they are ordinary people.
No, I think a very, very important point that you're making there. One thing that's very, very concerning to a lot of people is the fact that the ICJ's rulings adversary and they're non-binding. What impact, if any, can this opinion realistically have on the ground in Gaza, or when it comes to Israel's horrible, inhumane conduct?
There are two issues in your question. There's, first of all, is how to save those human beings from the misery they are in. Those people are hungry, they have no water, their land is destroyed, and yet they are being bombed every day. Every day there are children, women, and civilians in Gaza being killed. And if we forget Gaza for a minute, we go to the West Bank. We find that the best West Bank, there is no Hamas, there is no hostages, there is no reason. Israel is destroying cities, arresting people, putting blockade on many towns and villages and cities in the West Bank. This situation, which is continuing, it cannot be remedied from a practical point of view unless action is taken. And action to be taken, how can people go and save the Palestinians in Gaza, to give them water? And if the international community cannot force a member of the international community, which is Israel, to comply, it's very difficult. That's on the practical side. On the legal side, all decisions of the court are binding, irrespective of the arguments about it. These courts are not something that few people have created it. This court was created by the people who signed the Rome Treaty. And the Rome Treaty, which created it, actually it started by the United States of America. They were the first people who drafted it. But then When it went on, they realized that they will fall foul of that. So they refused to sign it. And Israel refused to sign it. And the United Kingdom signed it, but it's not applying it. And the other countries in Europe. So on the legal side, everything that is being issued by these courts is binding. Now we come to the point of application. And this is like if on the domestic law, if you have somebody who keeps on going in the streets, hurting people, beating them up, stealing things, breaking things, he's breaking the law, and everybody knows he's breaking the law, and the law says he should be arrested. But if the police don't enforce that one, for whatever reason, either because they are being bribed or because he's part of some ethnic group or something, the problem is not with the law. The problem is with the application. And this is the situation on the international level, especially on the case of Palestine. And we're talking about 1948 until now. An open occupation and abuse and genocide and killing civilians, destroying farmland and doing everything that is prohibited under the 4 Geneva Conventions. Geneva Conventions were made by Western powers following the First and the Second World War, because they tried to put some limits to how far you can go when you have a war. So they said you cannot kill civilians, you cannot kill children, you cannot destroy hospitals, you cannot destroy education places or religious places, all of these things. But yet, Israel is doing every single one of these abuses, and the West and the United Nations in the Security Council, in the General Assembly of the United Nations understand that, and they have voted a number of times in this way, except in the Security Council, which is the body that authorizes the use of force. And force does not necessarily have to be using actual bombing of Israel. But international law says, and the Genocide Convention says, anybody who helps is a partner in the crime. And this is exactly what the USA is doing. And this is exactly what Britain is doing and other countries.
No, definitely. Finally, Saab, I think if there's one thing that a lot of people have been looking for, especially after October the 7th, is tangible results. The enforcement of whatever is discussed at the ICJ at The Hague to directly impact the people of Palestine. So my question is, if the ICJ finds that Israel has failed its obligations, what role can civil society, legal professionals, and governments play in using this ruling to push for tangible action, to move away from rhetoric? We all know what is the truth. We're all witnessing it unfold right before our eyes. Now is the tangible aspects of it, the real felt change in the realities of the people of Palestine.
On the assumption that countries or governments rule their countries with the will of its people. That's why you have elections and you have other things. I think the demonstrations, which is, at least as far as I am concerned, I'm living in England, we have demonstrations every single week. And we are putting as much pressure as we can on the government, on the members of parliament, on the media, on even making applications to the court, on trying to move this situation. Now we have to continue with that. It is a little bit disheartening that the countries that should be more involved are actually not doing anything if they are not supporting Israel. And that is, I'm talking about the Arab countries, I'm talking about the Muslim countries. The Arab countries are not supporting the Palestinians in any way. As a matter of fact, many of them, Jordan and Egypt, are the ones on the border with Israel, are in fact supporting Israel against the Palestinians. And this, for me, at my age, it really makes me feel extremely, extremely sad that the people who should be the ones who take the lead are not. And we're relying on the people who have nothing to do with Palestine, the English men and women and young people and students and what have you. But I can also understand the pressures, the abuse that the governments are using the law against their own people. If you look at what Trump is doing to the students, to the universities, to everything. So if somebody was a student in the university in America, even if he was an American, he would be worried about what the government would do to him. In England here, we had demonstrations. The government made the police make our life so difficult that it deters people. But nevertheless, when I go to see the demonstrations, I don't go very often, but when I go and see them, my tears flood my eyes because I see English, Irish, Welsh, I don't know, from everywhere are demonstrating, and there are very few Muslims and Arabs. And the Muslims in England now, we have a term which is called Islamophobia here, because the government, the system, the police, all of it is directed against the Muslims in the UK, and they deny it. So the public opinion, the action of the people must continue if we really want this to stop. Whether we can stop it by that or not is another matter. But I think we mustn't give up. We must continue to voice our, and in our tradition, in Islamic tradition, if somebody sees something wrong, he must correct it. If he can't do it, then he must denounce it. And if he can't do it, he must say it by his heart. And so this is a duty on us as Muslims. And it doesn't matter whether we are Nigerians or South Africans or Jordanians or Indians or whatever, or English. We should be doing that, because this is how justice will eventually achieved. And I think Israel, despite all the crimes, or because of these crimes, I think this will be the beginning of the downfall of Israel, because Israel is now losing the argument in the West. The West is the public opinion now. They don't believe any of these things. They don't believe their governments on this issue, at least. So I think this is the beginning of the end.
No, definitely. I think we can all agree at this point that they are becoming a pariah state, and yeah, it's increasingly looking like that. But I think what's really concerning for me is those tangibles. Announcements that will change the lived realities of the people of Palestine on the ground. Sahab, we're going to leave it here for now. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us and for giving us your time and for your valuable insights. We hope as this continues, this ICJ case continues, we'll be catching up with you to kind of dissect all of those arguments that are made in front of the court.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, really interesting conversation. I think as this ICJ case hearings continue to unfold at The Hague, when you look at them and you listen to them, they expose not only the scale of Gaza's humanitarian catastrophe, but also the global system's paralysis in the face of deliberate, systematic cruelty. And what we're witnessing is not a failure of maybe aid logistics going into Gaza. It is a simple calculated denial of life, an assault on a people's dignity, and a defiance of international law. I mean, they don't even have the urgency and the decency to show up in court at the ICJ. That's how arrogant this pariah Israeli state has become, and yet for far too long, they've been allowed to operate with this impunity. It has been shielded by political alliances from the likes of Britain, from the likes of the United States, of Germany, and some European countries. And it is protected from any kind of consequence. Now, the question before us now, a very important question, is not only what the court will decide, but whether the world will act on it. That's the big question, because legal rulings without enforcement, well, it's just this, it's just ink on paper. And while states debate and they delay, and these conversations at the Hague are ongoing, and there's no positive tangible outcome for the people of Gaza. In the midst of all of that, children are starving to death. Women are being killed. Innocent young men are being arrested. They're being detained. They're being executed at a scale that has never been seen in recent human history. The truth is, the ICJ can't end this genocide. It can only expose the lie that law is neutral, when it is, I don't know, silent in the face of injustice. And in that silence, the moral credibility of the global order is on trial too. It's not just Israel that's in front of that court, the pariah state of Israel. It's not just them, it's humanity. It's our very soul and existence as a species. So if we continue to look away, if we continue to act, then, well, let it all burn down. Eh? Forget, what's this? Let it all burn down. Let it all go to waste, because we are watching people like you and me that bleed, that feel, essentially being butchered. And, well, take a look at our phones, and it's sad. And then short post for Instagram at a protest with my plug card looking cute, and then we move away, go to enjoy a nice McDonald's meal with a big jug of Coca-Cola. It's been another really insightful edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, I won't be coming back tomorrow for the Thursday edition. Here in South Africa is a holiday. It's Workers' Day. So yeah, we'll be taking a short break, but we'll be replaying some of the incredible interviews that you might have probably missed. We see some comments on air. Bliss44, at this point, the ICJ is complicit. Where is the guilty verdict regarding genocide? Good question. It's been almost 19 months. Instead, they give the apartheid state more time to exterminate the Semitic people of Palestine. Very, very true. Bliss44 continues to say, if the ICJ's ruling were non-binding, they'll be futile. It's the Zionists who claim that the ICJ cannot enforce anything, therefore the case is irrelevant. And they continue to mention the fact that in some parts of Germany, it's only Arabs that are protesting, and people from the other spaces, other sectors of that society are, well, silent. Yeah, man, it's really concerning and angering sometimes when you take some time and you think about it. And I'm saying, I still maintain, if we continue to let this genocide continue unabated, then let's forget about this. Let's forget about civilization and the fourth industrial revolution and artificial intelligence and humanity moving forward as a species. Let's forget about it. Let's go back to the dark stone ages and just butcher each other and take each other's lands, because, well, the Israelis are allowed to. Why can't any of us, be afforded that right? It's not just Israel which is on trial at the ICJ. It's our very existence. It's the soul of humanity. Doesn't matter, black, brown, Indian, Christian, Jew, Muslim, it doesn't matter. It's your existence as a human that is on trial and that is being questioned. It's been another incredible edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm not leaving you as is. I'm going to be leaving you with one of my favorite segments of the show is hashtag Fired Up with Hafez Imran Chunara. And today's topic is you can't change your current circumstances with the same mindset. You created them. Interesting listen. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be with you again next week for the Tuesday edition of News and Views. Inayat Wad will be coming back on Friday, but tomorrow we're taking a small break. Hope you don't miss us too much. We'll see you again next time. Goodbye.